What's up, all my movie-loving maniacs? This is your boy Fant4stic of the Lassiter Factor, and I am concluding my Fantastic Four deep dive with Fant4stic, which, as of next month, will have been 10 years since it came out, and in my opinion, is the absolute worst Fantastic Four movie ever came. Today, I'm going to give you my top 5 reasons why Fant4stic failed. Yes, I am calling it Fant4stic, not just to give this movie its own title identity from the other Fantastic Four movies, but also because, hey, this movie wanted us to call it Fant4stic, so that's what I'm gonna call it, Fant4stic. Scream 4, Take 3, 7, however you describe it. I don't know, I just wanted to do this. Before I get into the top 5 reasons why this movie failed, let's get into a little history and context to this movie, because, after Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver more or less was a box office flop. They wanted to reboot the franchise, and that ended up with Fox just sitting on this property for years until they got to the deadline they had to making a Fantastic Four movie, or else they were going to lose the rights back to Marvel. During the first half of the 2010s, the superhero genre was really starting to boom, and then Fox was just like, all right, we already got X-Men movies. All right, what else we got? All right, we still got Fantastic Four movie. All right, let's get a movie out. Let's get a movie. Hired John, giving us Chronicle, in which, hey, if you have not seen this movie, I highly recommend it. This is a severely underappreciated movie right here, and in my opinion, probably one of the best found footage movies ever made. Get Josh Trank to direct this movie, and they get Miles Teller to play Reed Richards, aka Mr. Fantastic, Kate Mara, who plays Sue Storm, aka the Invisible Woman, Jamie Bell, who plays Ben Grimm, the Thing, and Michael B. Jordan, who plays Johnny Storm, aka the Human Torch, and more on that in a little bit. We also got Toby Kebbell to play Victor Von Doom, aka Doctor Doom. We got a up-and-coming director and a solid young cast here. What could go wrong? Well, I'll tell you why. There's a lot of production troubles, some of it involving Josh Trank. They say he was hard to work with, and he ran a toxic and hostile production. The script wasn't up to par. Josh Trank had a different take on this movie in which he wanted to go for a more dark and body horror, and that is a factor, the tone. Halfway through the movie, the studio came in and tried to turn this into something that it wasn't supposed to be in the beginning, and yet this movie was something that it shouldn't have been in the beginning. So, my top 5 reasons as to how this movie failed. Number 1, the production. This really was a troubled production. All the reasons that I just said is to how this movie failed. When your village is not up to par to make this movie correct, that's when the movie failed. I remember Josh Trank, when the movie was getting ready to come out, he sent out a tweet saying, there's a fantastic version of this movie that you will never see. Clearly, his experience of making this movie was just horrible. And then you got Fox trying to basically strong arm him and then trying to make this movie. He trying to really cash in on the superhero genre, which was really booming at the time. Doing their best to hold on to some characters that they clearly don't have the resources or knowledge to make a movie about. The tone in this movie was just needlessly dark. Not everything needs to be the Dark Knight, which was the trend at the time. The Dark Knight was one of the biggest movies at the time, and people really wanted to cash in on what the Dark Knight was doing, so they just started make almost every superhero movie have a dark tone and have a grounded tone, and that tone just doesn't work for every character, and it definitely doesn't work for the Fantastic Four, and thank God Marvel Studios is going back to that tone for Fantastic Four First Step. 3, they didn't understand the lore, and I really looked at this movie hard when I rewatched it for this review, and just going through all the characters, because I've been watching all the Fantastic Four movies going up to this point, and I have a even greater understanding of these characters, because even how they got their powers are supposed to be a reflection of the character traits. Like Reed Richards, his ability to stretch is basically a manifestation of the fact that he stretches himself too thin in his work. Sue Storm, she feels like she's unseen, hence why she's invisible. And Johnny, he is a hothead, hence why he's on fire. And Ben Grimm, he is basically the rock of the group, hence why he's just some big rock monstrosity. And that is just not illustrated in this movie. They're out on the mission, they're in the negative zone, and while they're trying to get back in the ship, like let's say like Ben Grimm, some rocks get in the pod with him, hence why he turns into a rock monster. Some fire gets into Johnny's pod, hence why he's on fire. And then Sue Storm, while she wasn't with them, she did get the after effects of them coming back in the big blast, and that's how she's invisible. And I don't know the explanation for why Reed Richards is stretched in this movie, but I don't know. This is all supposed to be Marvel's first family, and when I watched this movie, I didn't feel like I was watching a family. Like there's a moment at the end where Johnny they're all trying to figure out names, and then Johnny says, "How about two guys, a girl, and the thing nobody wanted?" And then Ben Grimm he starts around, and I'm like, the two of y'all have not had any type of interaction throughout this movie, and Ben Grimm he's just pasted in this movie. This Reed Richards' friend who doesn't have any science knowledge, and then he disappears for half of the first act. And then when it's time for them to all get their powers, that's when they show up like, "Hey, I want you to experience this with me." And then there is absolutely no reason for him to be there. Before, this movie was made for the wrong reasons. This movie was clearly made just so Fox can retain the rights to these characters, which, as we all seen before with the 90s Fantastic Four movies, is a complete wrong thing to do. If you look, studio, I understand you want to cash in on these characters, but at the same time, if you haven't done anything with them in a long time, and you seriously just can't figure out what to do with them in a way that everybody will like, then maybe it's just time for you to let these characters go. Give the rights back to a studio that will do a much, 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 much better job. Seriously, fingers crossed this new Marvel Fantastic Four movie is good. Number 5 reason why this movie fails, Doctor Doom. I gotta say again, he's played by Toby Kebbell, and it also goes in line with how they just didn't understand the lore. And it's the fact that Doctor Doom in this movie is not Doctor Doom. He's supposed to have an antagonistic relationship with Reed Richards because Reed Richards is supposed to be the smartest person in this universe. And I just feel like we didn't get that with this character in this movie. He just thinks the world is doomed and that it's responsible for its own downfall. And then once he gets stuck in the negative zone, and then he doesn't come back until the third act of the movie for the climax of the movie. And when he does come back, he's disfigured. And this is not Doctor Doom. This is a crash test dummy right here. That's why I call him Crash. That's why I call him Crash Dummy Doom. His change in motivation is just abrupt. It's just the fact of, all right, he was relatively cool for most of the movie, and then when he comes back, he just up and decide, you know what, fuck humanity, I'm gonna destroy it. And then there's a sky beam. And now I'm just glad that this movie did not derail any of their careers. Granted, some are doing better than others, particularly Michael B. Jordan. Seriously, thank God this movie didn't derail his career. Also, the whole controversy of making Johnny Storm black and Sue Storm white, and she's adopted within their family. I mean, I didn't have an issue with it, but looking back on it now, and look, I'm not even trying to be mean or malicious when I say this, but this truly feels like Michael B. Jordan was just a DEI hire. This is definitely the worst Fantastic Four movie ever made, even worse than the 90s movie. And I can't believe I'm saying that, but it truly is, because at least with that movie, look, the low production of that movie, that movie had nowhere to go but down, and you can at least appreciate it for how earnest and honest it was. This movie, it had all the resources and looked relatively better than that movie, and it still just fails. When this movie came out, I was really excited. I was really hoping that they would finally do the Fantastic Four right, but then it turned out that was just not the case. And after this movie came out, it failed at the box office, it failed with critics, it failed with audiences. The whole world this movie failed with audiences, it failed with critics, it failed at the box office. I'm pretty sure I wasn't the only one that was saying, Marvel, Disney, come get your kids. Fant4stic gets the cussing emoji. So much for watching. Have you seen Fant4stic? I mean, I don't blame you if you haven't, but if you have, how do you feel about this movie 10 years later? Do you think it's the worst Fantastic Four movie ever made? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. This is your boy Fant4stic of the Lassiter Factor. Stay safe, wash your hands, peace.